Thank you very much for accepting my invite to record this episode. So today we are here with Ross Tomkins, and before we start, I would like to know more about you. Who is Ross? Where do you live? What are your personal interests, hobbies, family?
Thank you very much for the invitation, Simon. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. My background, I'm a physiotherapist. So I trained in the 90s to be a physiotherapist, and I live in the northeast of England with my wife and two children. My daughter is 18. We were just talking off the air. She's going to come travelling with me and come to my meetings for in the year between going to university and school. My son is a little younger. He's 16 next week. So that's me and where I am. My hobbies, anything outside. I love hiking, I love mountaineering, I love snowboarding, I love golf. Not so keen on the inside sports.
Ross, I love golf too. You have to come to Medellin and I can take you to very nice courses here.
I would absolutely love that, Simon. I'm going to take you up.
Okay, so going to the business side, I would like to know more about your story. So you told me that you are a physiotherapist, but you have acquired more than 20 companies. So tell me more about that transition and how did you become a serial acquirer?
Yeah, my journey definitely isn't the typical one of a businessman or a health professional. Very few health professionals go on to start a business, and less sell a business, and then even fewer go on to acquire. As you say, I think we're on 26 businesses now, and it'll be 29 by the end of this month. So we've got 3 closing at the moment. So it happened kind of by accident, to be honest. We started our first business in 2006, and it was an occupational health business. We employed doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, and the main purpose of our business was to keep people healthy at work. So if somebody injured themselves at work, well, physiotherapists and doctors would go and see them and rehabilitate them and get them working again in their office, if they were maybe a solicitor or a lawyer, or maybe they worked in a factory, and we would get them back lifting boxes and doing all those things. We did some really interesting things. So we redesigned the inside of a helicopter to make it more ergonomic and comfortable for the air ambulance crew, so the paramedics that were in the helicopter. Redesigned the inside of a bin lorry, so the refuse trucks that drive around. And interestingly, the gentlemen who were working in that environment didn't hurt themselves lifting big heavy bins. They hurt themselves because they were sitting on a laptop, putting their notes up as they were driving around the city. So we did some really interesting things, and we grew that business without spending a penny on marketing. We grew using strategic partnerships. So we targeted similar businesses but had a different skill set, and we basically joint ventured with them. So we provided the physiotherapy, other companies provided the nurses, and together we grew those companies, and we ended up with 35 members of staff, and we eventually sold that business. Now this was an epiphany moment, because all of a sudden I was made aware of a very different type of business. I was aware of capital raising, made aware of mergers, acquisitions, exits. And although in the beginning it frightened me because I didn't know what it was, it also excited me and intrigued me that you could double or triple your business in one afternoon just by signing a piece of paper. So it really, it grabbed me, and I wanted to learn more. So I did. I started researching online, paid to join groups and have mentors to teach me about all these different strategies. And it took about 2 years for me to do the first deal. The first 2 years, I think I had imposter syndrome. I was very worried that I was going to overvalue a company and put too much debt into their books. And I even worried that I would undervalue it and offend the owner. So all of these things were going through my mind. But after 2 years, I did acquire our first business. This is back in 2019. And then something just sort of clicked. So as I mentioned before, in about 3 weeks' time, we'll have completed 29 acquisitions, exits, and investments. So we've had 4 exits over the last 7 years. We've got another one in discussions at the moment. And last year we made 3 investments into startups, which isn't our typical thesis, but we were very captivated by the founders. So we ended up putting some small tickets in there.
Wow, that's very, very impressive. Can you share one acquisition that went exceptionally well and one that was more challenging?
Yeah, absolutely. So one that went well, there's probably 2 that spring to mind. So one was one of the very first ones, and we owned 4 physiotherapy practices, and we looked vertically up and down our supply chain as well as horizontally. And if you think about what a physiotherapy clinic buys, medical supplies, and then it treats patients, treats clients. So I thought, well, let's buy a medical, and I literally jumped onto Google and Googled medical supplies companies near me. And about 5 companies came up in Newcastle upon Tyne, where I am. And I sent them all a letter just saying, hi, my name's Ross, I'm a physiotherapist, I would love to buy your medical supplies company. And one of them came back to me and said, well, this is good timing. I'm in my 60s, my business partner's in his 70s, let's have a conversation. So I went to meet them a few days later, and we got on famously well, and we connected. We were both had a sort of a healthcare background, and they were stuck. They were stuck doing about 950,000 pounds. So what's that? $1.3 million, something like that. And they'd been stuck there for years. They just couldn't break through that 7-figure barrier. We acquired it. We acquired it using a hybrid structure. So we put a commercial mortgage onto the warehouse. So we bought the warehouse as well. We used what was called an EFG, Enterprise Finance Guarantee, which is a little bit like the SBA 7A loan in America. So it's a government-backed loan. It doesn't exist in England now. It's called something different. So we had a government-backed loan, a commercial mortgage, and then we used seller finance. We financed about 35% from memory over 3 years. Now, about 4 months, maybe 5 months after we bought that business, COVID happened. And the old owner said, oh my God, this is a disaster. I'm glad you bought the business because it's really difficult. The supply chains are all failing. Nobody can get any medical supplies. And I said, are you joking? This is the greatest opportunity ever because we sell things that people need. Like we can change people's lives. We can help people. And he said, but you can't get any medical supplies. And I said, Robert, watch me. And I jumped on a plane. I flew to India. I was making appointments with medical supplies companies in India, in the air, on the Wi-Fi, on the plane. I landed in Delhi. I went to meet some suppliers and we did a deal. When I got back on the plane, the day after I left India, there was an export ban. And we lost all of the deal. They kept our money. We lost quite a lot of money in India. Undeterred, we then looked for suppliers further east. So we went to China and we did a deal with a medical supplies company out there. And we ended up selling to, I think, 3 different governments around the world. We grew that business to £7.3 million, so $10 million, in the first year, just by tendering for opportunities and not saying no. I didn't believe there wasn't a way that we could help each other or help, our patients and our doctors. But it was a really interesting time because everything was getting really expensive. And at one point, a mask that we used to buy for about 2 pence we were having to buy for 95 pence. It was like a commodity. It was a very strange time. But that, I would say, was probably the most successful because of the amount of volume we had quite quickly. The least successful deal we've done, we have tried to do 2 turnarounds in those figures, and they're difficult. I much prefer buying profitable companies, and that's what we stick to now. But we did buy a turnaround company many years ago, and we bought it for £1 because it was loss-making. And after about 6 months, we had successfully steadied the ship. Morale was good again. We started winning more work, and we thought we turned a corner. And then our biggest customer went under. They went into administration, and they knocked us for about £500,000 that they owed us, and then that took us under as well. So we had to shut the doors and unfortunately give up. So that was probably the hardest thing we've done so far.
Wow. And how did Therapy Direct, your first company, evolve into Balmoral Partners?
Great question. So Therapy Direct Healthcare, we actually sold, which was the physiotherapy company, and we did an asset sale. So because it was an asset sale, we still owned the limited company, but it couldn't be called Therapy Direct Healthcare anymore because we sold the name. So we changed it to TDH Capital. So Therapy Direct Healthcare became TDH Capital. In 2024, we realised that we hadn't been acquiring things in a very tax efficient manner, and there was probably a better structure. And that's when we started Balmoral Partners, and we incorporated it in Dubai. It's called Balmoral Partners because the very first business we bought was called Balmoral Physiotherapy back in 2019. Balmoral Partners is a nod to the past. It's a romantic gesture to how we started in that very first clinic we bought. And though now, 7 years later, the deals have got a bit bigger and the team has got bigger, and we're now spreading geographically around the world.
Do you have like family offices or private equity funds that are funding your acquisitions, or how does that work?
We've tried to use as much debt as we can, as long as it's not over leveraging the business, because that, of course, meant that we kept more equity. As the deals got a little bit bigger, what we did is we then started looking at angel investors, angel syndicates, high net worth individuals, and we raised mid-7 figure, probably close to 8, from that source of equity. Now we're looking at bigger deals. We are talking to a lot more family offices, private equity. We've got a deal just agreed verbally in the States, and we've just offered 32 million for a company there with 8 million net profit, which is a great deal for us, but it will be our largest, and therefore we need a different type of financial partner.
How can you acquire so many businesses at the same time? Do you have an acquisition team sourcing for deals? Do you work with boutique investment banks, or how are you doing so much acquisitions?
So we do have a team. So there's myself. I'm the one who is generally out meeting people, going to events around the world, meeting business owners, meeting investment bankers like yourself, or meeting solicitors, lawyers, accountants, CPAs, and we get quite a lot of deals from there. We also get about 1/3 of our opportunities from LinkedIn, and I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. Of course, that's where we met. And we get a lot of opportunities from there. And then also we've got all of our inbound and outbound work as well. So inbound is all of the brokers that we work with, the business brokers around the world. And then outbound, as well as LinkedIn, we have a cold email campaign that's working all of the time. We use a couple of AI tools to find businesses as well. So we've got a lot of different ways in which we find deals. They get passed to one of my colleagues, an analyst within the business, Faris, and he does a lot of the initial calculations to see whether the deal stacks up. It then would get passed to my business partner and our CFO, James, and he looks at it from through a more financial lens. And then it will come back to me and we'll close the negotiation, bring in the finance and take over the business.
And how long does it take between finding a potential target and closing the deal typically?
Wow, that's a good question. So the last deal we did, which was in September last year, it took 6 years from the first time we met them to the time the deal closed. I would say on average though, it's about 6 months.
How do you do your due diligence? So what's your process to analyze a target that is interested in exploring a deal with you?
So we split the due diligence into 3 areas. So we've got our financial due diligence, legal due diligence, and then the commercial due diligence. The legal due diligence is outsourced. Our outsourced legal team do that as well. Depending on the size of the deal, they might do quite a light touch DD, or they'll do a much deeper dive on the bigger businesses where there's more at stake. The financial due diligence is done between my business partner, my CFO, and our external accountants as well. Between them, they handle the financial due diligence. And the commercial due diligence is usually done either by ourselves or our operating partners. And we feel like because we stay pretty much in healthcare all the time, we've got a good pedigree there. I've been in healthcare for 30 years. My business partner's been in healthcare at a very high level for the last 12 years. So from a commercial point of view, we've usually got the ability within the team to ask the right questions, to delve into how the business works, what do the contracts look like, where are the pitfalls, where are the risks. So that's our due diligence process.
Ross, how much do you have to invest on average in each deal, like for all the due diligence process or investment banking fees or that kind of stuff? Have you measured as a percentage of the purchase price? How much does it cost?
I would say that's a really good question. Off the top of my head, I would say it is around 3% of the
3%.
total. Yeah.
Yeah. I always tell my clients that they will spend between 1.5 and 5% depending on the size of the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. On a very small deal, it doesn't make sense to have really extensive due diligence, which drives your cost up at the end of the day. But on a far bigger deal, you would want to do a much deeper dive because you've got a lot more risk. You're putting a lot more money on the line.
Yes. Do you prefer to buy the assets or the shares? Like, always that will depend also on the geography you are doing the acquisition, but in general.
Yeah, in general, we would always buy the shares. I think, although I do see merit in buying the assets because of course you can leave behind all the liabilities, which is always good. I think there are a lot more problems as well. For instance, if you buy the assets, well then the contracts might not go across with you. Bank accounts might not be changing, and that can cause a lot of change and turmoil within the business. You might lose clients. Maybe the staff become disillusioned or unhappy. So we like to keep everything the same. So a share transfer is perfect for us.
Okay. And Ross, once you close a deal, what are your next steps? So do you keep the team of the acquired company? Do you bring your own team? What's your normal pathway to like start running the company?
Yeah, again, great question. It depends on the deal. If it was the first what we call the platform business. So if it was the first business we acquired in a particular niche, it would be perhaps different than if it was a bolt-on acquisition where there's already managers in place. But either way, we take the first 90 to 100 days very seriously. During that first initial period, we think it's really important to win the hearts and minds of our new team members. They don't know who we are. It can be very scary when there's a change. So we would always want to sit down with everybody, give them a chance to ask us questions, but also learn from them. You know, what would you do if you owned the company? What do you think we could do better? What have you seen that doesn't work over the last few years? Because the staff know the business better than we do. They've been there for 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. So we want to learn from them. Wherever possible, we want to reward those staff members by giving them more opportunities, perhaps to take more senior jobs because they're part of a bigger business. And as much as possible, we don't like to change things. So we don't sack people when we come on board, don't change the name. We very much keep the business looking and feeling the same.
And how do you address the culture topic? Can you give us an example of like a company that you acquired and you had a lot of challenges like dealing with culture?
We don't have that a great deal in many of our businesses. They tend to be, England is quite a small, the United Kingdom is quite a small country. There's very little differences from one end to the other. In our home care business, we've bought 4 home care businesses, and we do have a lot of staff that come over from Zimbabwe and Southern Africa. And there can be sometimes some differences there from a cultural perspective. It's very different, I think, coming to employment in England after being employed in Africa. So that can take a little bit of time to find out how each other, I guess, works.
Okay. Ross, how are you implementing AI in your companies and what results are you getting from that?
That's a really funny question because this morning we just sacked an AI marketing company. They gave us a brilliant presentation about 2 months ago. We're going to come in and we're going to use AI agents and it's going to be brilliant. You're going to be the biggest company in the world in no time. They took a month to prepare and then they launched a month ago, and it's not that the marketing stalled and stayed the same. It just dropped off a cliff. And we started upsetting our clients. There was an AI agent that was like talking to people in really strange ways, sending them weird messages. It was not good. So we've just sacked our AI marketing company. So that was a disaster. On a smaller scale, we utilize it when we're analyzing companies with any particular tool, just by asking, some simple prompts and loops of Claude or GPT. We haven't yet got into the agentic work. What about you?
Oh, we are doing miracles, We are improving our processes, the quality of our documents. We are doing things much faster with less people, and it's incredible. I'm in love with AI, and we are like doing a big effort to learn more about it every day, but it's amazing, I love it. Rose, yes, please.
We use it for things like research before news gets sent out. So, typically ask something like, show me the biggest 3 news stories in this particular niche this week. And then we choose one of those and say, right, now turn that into a blog or an article or a newsletter, so we can have really current, up-to-date knowledge that we can then share with team members or external people that we work with.
That's great. AI has totally changed our business during the last year, and I'm in love with it. very, very impressive. Ross, changing about topic, can you tell us more about Alphagenics?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Alphagenics is our men's healthcare company. So, we provide hormone optimization, so testosterone replacement therapy, and longevity medications as well. So, things like telmisartan, tadalafil, metformin, things that can help you reduce insulin sensitivity and arguably live a longer, healthier life. We started that almost 5 years ago now, and it was all based upon my own health journey. So I was quite unwell in my mid 30s, and I didn't know why. Saw one, I saw two GPs, two general practitioners, and three endocrinologists, and all of them said, "There's nothing really wrong with you." And the last one actually said, "It's all in your head. There's nothing wrong with you." Didn't believe them. As a physiotherapist, I thought, I know my own body better than you do. I've lived with my body for 30 years. This doctor's known me for 30 minutes. Like, how can he tell me how I'm feeling? So I didn't take no for an answer. And eventually I found a doctor down in London who diagnosed me within about an hour of having low testosterone. I was a bit skeptical because at the time I'd never been to see a private doctor before. I'd always had free treatment on the NHS, and I was a little skeptical, but he proved it with a blood test. He put me on treatment, and within 6 weeks I felt like a new man. So I was 35, I think, at the time, maybe 30, almost 36, and I felt like about an 80-year-old. But within 6 weeks of being on treatment, I felt like an 18-year-old again. I was running up the stairs. My joy was back again. I was happier, I was healthier, I was a better husband, a better father, communicating better with my patients. And we continued, or I continued having treatment from other doctors until eventually I tried to buy the clinic that I was being treated at. And when they said no, I said, I'm going to do it myself then. So we started Alphagenics, I'd say almost 5 years ago now. And we've been growing that ever since.
Wow, do you think there is still stigma around men's hormonal health in the business world? What message would you give to founders and executives in their 30s and 50s?
There's definitely still a stigma, without a doubt, men's health. In general, we don't talk. We tend to be quite stoic. We keep things to ourselves, particularly if it's of a health nature, where we'll just shut up and get on with it. And it's normally our wives that tell us to go to the doctors, and eventually we do. What I would say to anyone who's listening, from the age of 30 upwards, is 1 in 4 men of that age have low testosterone, but only 10% of them do something about it. 90% don't know. And they just think they're getting old. They think the reason why their joints are achy or their belly is getting a bit bigger, they think the reason they've got brain fog is just they're getting older, or perhaps their diet's not very good. And it can be fixed. It can be fixed with hormone replacement therapy. So I would urge everyone, if you are experiencing any ache, pain, weight gain, loss of muscle mass, brain fog, maybe feelings of anxiety, depression, or suffering with erectile dysfunction, if you have any of those, get a blood test. You can usually get a blood test anywhere in the world relatively cheaply, and that will tell you very quickly whether your testosterone is at the right level.
Okay, I will take that into account. I'm obsessed with health, So I practice sports at least 5 times per week, and it has totally changed my life. And I try to eat healthy. It's not easy because I love beer, I love ice, but I try to do my best,
Yeah, that's all we can do. We can just try our best. None of us are perfect. We're all imperfectly human. And it would be boring if we were perfect, wouldn't it? You've got to have, I think, some time to have fun.
Yes. Okay, and you told me that you want to buy businesses in other countries like the USA. So what are your like medium-term M&A plans?
So our goal when we set Balmoral Partners up 18 months ago was to be at 500 million revenue under management in 5 years. So we're 18 months in and we're at about 50. We're aiming to be at 80 by the end of our second year, and that will put us on track to hit 500 in 5 years. Quite an aggressive goal, but it's exciting. It gets me out of bed in the morning.
Ross, that's very impressive. Let me tell you a story. I was contacted by a chemical company in 2018. It was a chemical distribution company, and they were going to sell or spin off one of their businesses, and they needed to grow through acquisitions. So I helped them buy 3 companies before selling the bigger company to an European listed company in the stock exchange, and it was an amazing experience because we had to interview 30 business owners to do that 3 acquisitions. And you know what was the difference between them? Their goals and their way of thinking. Yeah. So I met 2 business owners that started as partners, and they divided themselves, and one of them was making like $50 million in revenue, and the other one was doing $1 million in revenue after 25 years. And the only difference between them were their goals, what they wanted to do with their businesses. So having that goal it's amazing. There is one book that everyone should read, everyone that wants to like grow their businesses and achieve impressive goals. So it's called How to Make a Few $Billion. I will leave the book here. And have you read it?
No, it sounds fascinating.
It's very, very good. I think you will love it. Yeah, you are already doing it, but you will love it, you know. So I will send you the link to the book. And
Thank you.
talking about books, so what's your favorite business book related to these topics? Or
So the book that started me on my entrepreneurial journey is a book called Oversubscribed, and it's by an author called Daniel Priestley, and it's about marketing. It's about how to sell your business, how to grow your business. But at the very start of the book, there's a throwaway comment where Daniel says, and he bought a competitor. He acquired a competitor, and it just carries on like everything was normal. And I thought, wow, how did he do that? So I kind of wanted to learn more about it. And that sort of started me on this path to learning about sales, marketing, and then ultimately learning about acquisition, capital raising, and all of the things that you're involved with on a daily basis.
that's very interesting. Reading books is the best investment anyone can do.
I'm
no
like
doubt.
you. Everybody can't see, but next to me, I've probably got about 300 books, all sorts of different business ones.
Yeah, I don't buy so many physical books right now. Most of them I prefer the electronic versions and the like audible versions, and I don't have more place to put them. So right now I prefer to have them on my iPad, Kindle, and they don't get lost so often, you know.
Yeah, I'm quite old fashioned. I like having a book in my hand, especially when I travel. I love just reading a book on a plane. Generally, don't watch too many movies. I'll just read a book and get lost in it for that time when my phone can't ring because I'm in the middle of the air.
Yeah. Ross, and do you plan to retire anytime soon, or like what are your when you reach your 500 million goal? Yeah, what do you plan to do? What are your personal goals? How do you see your future?
I'm definitely not retiring anytime soon. I would be bored if I didn't do this. I love what I do. It doesn't feel like work. And I don't think I'll ever retire. I think it's important that we do keep our minds active, as well as our bodies. You know, you mentioned being a keen sportsman yourself, so I will probably at some point like to take a bit more free time and maybe play a bit more golf. But I certainly won't be retiring anytime soon. On a personal level, I've had a goal to do the Explorers Grand Slam for a while now, which is the 7 summits around the world, the highest mountain on every continent, and the North and South Pole. So there's only been about 150 people in the history of the world that have ever stood on those 9 places on Earth, and I would love to do that.
Wow, very nice. Ross, what would you tell like physicians, engineers, and pilots or people that are not like business acquirers? What opportunity do they have, like following a pathway similar to yours?
I would say whether you think you can or think you can't, either way is true. So if you believe in yourself, literally anything is possible. And I truly believe that the health professionals, the physiotherapists, the doctors, the pilots, people who have everyday jobs, make really good acquirers because we're good with people. We're good at asking questions. We're good at listening. And I think that's really important when you're buying small to medium-sized enterprises, because you're not generally dealing with big private equity firms every day. You're dealing with people like you, people that have grown a business to 1, 5, 10, 15 million. They still own it. They still operate it. Their husband or wife probably work in the business. They don't wear suits or have briefcases. Just like I, have my hat on every day and usually wear shorts. So I think we make genuine conversations, and I think that genuine conversation builds rapport, and building rapport is crucial for getting the deal over the line.
Yeah. Like listening to your story, I sometimes think if I'm doing the right thing, because I have a successful career as an investment banker. I know that buying businesses and grow them through acquisitions has much more leverage, and it can take you to the like high net worth individual much faster,
It's quite exciting as well. And for yourself, you're already an expert in finance, so it would be easy for you. You could go and grow a business in 6 months. You'd be phenomenal.
Yes, you're right. Uh, Ross, I think like you are the kind of person that everyone wants to become as a business owner, because you have grown so much. You're very young. You have done amazing things. I think we need to learn more about people like you. I think you should write a book with all your experience. I would love to read it. And I am very happy uh, to have you here and to hear to your story. So I hope we can personally meet anytime soon. And I thank you very much for your time.
Oh, no problem at all, Simon. And thank you very much for all of those very kind words. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person as well. We couldn't decide whether that was going to be in Colombia or in Paraguay. Well, maybe
Yes,
one of those.
yes,
Or the US. We both like the US as well.
yes. I'm going to send you an invite to Colombia so you can learn a little bit more about it, because I know you will love it, but not Bogota. I love Bogota, but Medellin is very different. I know you have been in Bogota,
Yeah.
but I want you to come to Medellin. You will love it.
Let's make it happen.
Okay. So, Ross, thank you very much, and let's keep in touch.
Definitely. Thank you.